Yeah, it's devastating. So today when you go home, you should call your parents and thank them, and also apologize for all the time that you wasted, their energy, their life, all the wrinkles you've given them.
Gray hairs.
Gray hairs, regrets, anger, heart attack, ulcer.
Death.
The what?
Death.
Theft?
Death.
Oh, death. Yeah. Leah, how are you? You have children?
Two cats though. One of them, Loki, he has aggression issues with the other cat.
Wait, say again?
I have two cats though. And
One is Loki?
Yeah, one is Loki, the other is Commodus. And
Where did you get these names from? Hello, Mirna, how are you? Kendra, hello, how are you?
Because Loki is a gray cat, so it just looks like his name is Loki. And Commodus, I don't know. He's from Gladiator. Very active. But Loki doesn't like Commodus, and so he's like on Prozac to prevent him from attacking the other cat.
I'm sorry, you have your cat on medication?
Yeah, because he attacks the other cat.
Why not just put him in a car and just leave him somewhere?
No, Loki is my cat. We grew up together. Commodus came in later on.
Well, get rid of one of them.
Commodus, I would get rid of Commodus.
You know, bring him to Laney. Just drop him off.
I like both of them, so
So wait,
Loki is on Prozac.
there's Prozac for cats?
Oh yeah, it's very common. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a first line. Yeah,
Can human beings eat that pill?
probably.
Can I try one? I mean, I'm not depressed, but I just want to see how it tastes. Are they expensive?
For cats, surprisingly,
You have to be where?
I said you're gonna have to.
What does Prozac do?
it,
Make them heavy, right?
that's him from, I don't know, it calms him down so that he does not attack the other cat.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
I thought it was something.
Oh my God.
Like on gabapentin, but that was way too strong.
My cats used to like, they just got over it. How long have you had them?
I've had Loki since I was 14. I've had Commodus for about 3 or 4 years. He's never liked Commodus. He doesn't really like other cats at all.
Sanaya, yes.
I understand the format and all that, but like, where am I supposed to find the topic? I don't know. The topic. The subject.
So when you click on the modules for the first assignment, there are 4 or 5 items on it. You listen to them and you follow the directions.
All of them?
Yeah. I mean, you have a month to do them. Yeah. Yeah.
So before I saw your format, I wrote an essay that doesn't follow your format.
It does or it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't follow
Okay.
your format. But I redid it. But could I submit that for extra credit? Since I missed some of the other assignments and questions.
You want extra credit? Just give me money.
I thought it cost.
Coffee is fine too.
How much? How much coffee is going to pick up for this assignment?
Well, that's in addition to the assignment.
Yeah, I submitted it. I wrote something.
Oh, you guys are so funny. Oh my God, I'll throw up. This is such a waste of time. So, Tasha, do you have anything before we go to Leah? No questions?
So, if I could correct the format, can I still submit today? Few times today, if I bought an extra bag of coffee. What?
Coffee is not necessary.
Sure. I was gonna get the Ethiopian coffee, real strong.
I don't like that coffee.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, no, I mean,
And I was gonna ask you, what do you drink?
my wife is Eritrean, but still, I don't like their coffee. Yeah, whenever she says, I'm going to make you coffee, I say, please, no. I take out the cross like it's a vampire.
Why you don't like that one?
It tastes bad.
I just know it's real strong. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, it has nothing to do with me being racist or not. It just tastes bad.
There's coffee that's popular right now, like the past several years, and it's, I don't know, bitter or something. When you go to coffee shops,
Matcha.
Like a flavor.
it's sort of just in fashion right now. But I don't know, it's very
It's a
sour.
flavor. It's a flavor. Which is beginning of.
But I also have like bad taste. I drink like the worst coffee.
Mirna, what do you think?
Salvadorian coffee.
Is good?
I think McDonald's use that kind of coffee. It's strong for me. Salvadorian.
Huh. What's it called?
Salvadorian coffee.
Where do you get some?
In McDonald's,
You don't know the name of the brand. Okay.
they say we use Salvadorian coffee. So
Okay.
when I think I know it's Salvadorian coffee.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It is strong for me. Like,
Very strong. Okay. Leah, what do you have to say about that?
I don't drink coffee because it makes me tired, so.
Okay, well, do you have anything to say about anything else?
Sure.
Hello, Kendra. Yeah.
So I noticed in all of the audio lectures, a common reoccurring thing, I suppose, was happiness and ultimate good. Aristotle had a very different view of the ultimate good from Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus Aurelius had a very different view of the ultimate good from Machiavelli. So my question, I suppose, would be, is it up to us to decide what our own ultimate good is? Do we just find our own philosophy? Is that, I suppose, what we're all just trying to do in life?
How about like a simpler question? Uh, Isabel, who are you texting? I hope they're interesting. I don't really know what happiness is. For someone like Moses, is finding a physical environment and then assuming that physical environment is a promised land, and then getting there, building a couple of structures and calling it home. For someone like Jesus, happiness is the complete opposite. It can't really be found in anything physical. It transcends just life altogether. I think there was a guy, Abraham Maslow, born in New York, from the Jewish tradition, hated with passion his mother, didn't really much care for his father, had a heart attack and died later on in life. But he was also amongst like these intellectuals. It was a very interesting time, period in which he lived. And I think the way you can define happiness in a way that makes sense, at least for me, is by exploring the hierarchy of needs that he came up with.
That last one.
Maslow, yeah. He has a funny face, with a funny mustache. He didn't go to his mother's funeral. He just believed that in her lived Satan. And he was a psychologist. And he couldn't medicate his mom. He couldn't even medicate himself to feel better about his mom. So, and all of his knowledge about psychology or psychotherapy didn't even help him. So for those of you in this class who have this intuitive negative feeling towards anything in life, and you assume that reading a couple of books or taking some pills, that may help you, the answer is no. You know, the best thing you can do is repress it, and then have the resources of the tools to make sure that however way you feel about a particular thing doesn't express itself outwardly. So can I tell you a story, Leah? It may have nothing to do with your question. It's a story I shared with my students on Thursday, but I don't really want to go through the hierarchy. It's too much work. I have to put stuff on the board. We have to go, horizontal, vertical. Then we have to kind of go through all this other maps, and I don't want to do all that. Is that okay? So there was a guy around the 8th century. His name is Abu Hassan al-Kharagani. Kharagani was one of those Sufi or Muslim mystics. Kharagani had a student whose name was Khaja Abdullah Ansari. Ansari wrote 12 volumes, commentary on the Quran. That's like the Bible of the Muslims. So one day, Kharagani, let's just call him K, his student goes to him and says, so you know, K, when you die and God asks you, were you ever on this quest for happiness? What are you going to say to him? Okay. I'm changing the storyline a little bit so it can kind of fit our conversation. And so this is his answer to a very, very profound question. Oh, you have to go. Good luck with the class today. Thank you, Kendra. It's good to see you. My mom and my dad's 28, my mom's 15 and a half. They have sex. Do they know much about sex? No, they just know they like it. Do they know the dangerousness of having sex? No. Do they know the responsibilities of having a child? No. Do they sit back and, analyze the complexity of society, politics, money? No. Two very, very young, naive, innocent, stupid people. My parents, I love them. When anyone under the age of 60 is just stupid. So they have sex. I come out. I mean, I'm still in her belly. You know, at a certain point, you know, the womb is very constricting. You want to come out. You know, your mother's belly is not very spacious. So you start kicking her and punching her. You know. And the moment you're kicking and punching become really vigorous, what you're basically saying without saying it is, I want freedom. You know, there isn't much space here. Food is really bad. There's no light. I want to get out and get on the bike and ride around. And I suppose while in her belly, my concept of happiness is coming out. Now, I don't really know what it means to come out. I've never been there. And I don't know if I'm really going to be happy while out. All I know is that I just don't like to be inside her anymore. I want out. And biology is on my side. So at a certain point, she looks at my dad and says, my water broke. Rush me to someplace, and I come out. I don't know why, but I doubt very much many kids who come out kind of just say, wow, this is such a great place. Take me to Starbucks. All of us come out crying and screaming, you know. And I don't know if it's psychological, biological, I don't know, it's intuitive that we know something about life. That just makes us scream and cry. I don't really know. And thankfully, my mom wasn't a drunk. Thankfully, my mom wasn't an addict. Thankfully, that her palate was very diverse. She ate all sorts of foods, which meant that when I came out, I had that gift inside me. I'd be open to all foods given to me. You know. So I scream and I cry, and the nurse spanks me a little bit, and that hurts. My mom hugs me, that calms me down, and a few minutes later, I'm like wrapped really, really tightly in this blanket. So what the hell is this? You know, I come out of one prison and end up in another one? That makes no sense. They put gloves on my hands so I don't scratch myself to death. And I suppose while being held hostage by the blanket wrapped so tightly, I only have one desire. I want this blanket off. I want to move around. My happiness is not knowing what Aristotle said about happiness, or what the Ten Commandments are. I don't even care about my father. I don't even care about my mom. The moment I am born, Leah, I am born to be selfish. It's all about me. At a certain point, I suppose my community trusts me enough to remove the blanket altogether. And I lay on the floor, on my back, and I just keep looking at the sky, probably asking myself, why am I here? Who were the criminals to bring me down here, you know? And of course they buy me toys to entertain me and distract me from the bigger questions of life. At a certain point, I feel like I'm being held hostage by my own body. I see my parents walking around. I want to walk. I see other kids, you know, one on the stroller jumping up and down. And my version of happiness changes. It's no longer about the womb and coming out. It's no longer about the blanket. It's, man, you know, I'm laying on my back. I want to do something with my body. Could you say that my definition of happiness is childish? Yeah, but I'm just a child. And so I realize I am envious of those who are able to walk, to stand, to jump, to hold an ice cream cone. I'm not envious because Donald Trump is the president and I'm not. I'm not envious because someone else is the dean, I'm just a lowly faculty member. The emotion of envy is very basic. I want to jump. I want to walk. I want to stand. I want to roll. I can't do any of those things. And I suppose in the infantile mind of mine, the only thing that makes for happiness is my ability to roll over, to stand, to walk. And that's what I pray for, without really knowing what religion is or what God is, none of those things. All I know is that my happiness is not about money. It's not about having a different set of parents. I just want to like stand. And I try. And I try. It's very much like, you know, you're trying all different job interviews. You're going through all the schooling to get a bachelor's or a master's or a PhD. You got all these dates. I keep trying and trying and trying to roll, and eventually I'm successful. I'm happy. And just in case my parents don't pay attention to me, some groans, some grunts to get their attention. And then this like 30-year-old man has to look down and say, "Oh, honey, look at that. He's able to roll over." And they have to make this a big deal, which it really isn't. And it's only later in life you understand that parents have to do a lot of lying to make their kids feel good about the pathetic things that they do. Like, "Mom, are you going to come to my first grade graduation?" "Sure. It's a huge deal. Of course I'm going to come." "Mom, take a look at my drawing. It's worth shit, but what can you say?" At a certain point, you know, rolling in your bed is no longer enough. Your happiness changes now. You want to stand, then you want to walk, then you want to run. Then you walk into society and you realize your best friends, you know, they have a bicycle or a skateboard or this or that, and you scream and cry for that. There is no certain definition for happiness. It just changes constantly. And every time you look back and you say, "Man, was I really like screaming and crying for rolling over, for wanting to stand, for wanting to walk?" So as you gain more mobility, more maturity, as you become more insightful, you look back and the only thing that you have is regret. How could I be so stupid? Then you walk in the streets as a stranger, you know, and you say, "I want friends." "Why is so-and-so friends with so-and-so?" "I want to be included." And all of a sudden your happiness again is no longer about having a bike. It's being approved by your environment. You live in the eyes of other people. Another version of happiness as you get a bit more older. At a certain point, you realize, just in case you don't do certain things that your parents ask you, your mom cries, your dad is disappointed. And so you get spanked, you get kicked, you get punished, reprimanded in some shape or form. And for the first time, you really have a sense of self. Do I want to please my own self by being out and playing soccer? Or do I want to please my parents, sitting and doing math, a subject I really just don't care for? You do your math, Leah, but you hate your parents for it. And you hate yourself for being a victim to an environment you didn't really ask for. But that environment has so many forces, and those forces impose themselves on you. You have no choice. Then you go to school and you have a teacher like me, gives you your score back and says, "Leah, you know, you got a D on this essay out in public. You're embarrassed. You don't really care if you can stand or run a jog. You don't care if you have a bike. All you know is that someone like me has embarrassed you, shamed you amongst people you hardly know." And your version of happiness is this now. Next time when I have a quiz, I'm going to study. I'm at least going to get a C so I don't get called out. You get a little older, you see your friends holding hands with someone, you say, man, I want that. It's not about philosophy, love of wisdom. You don't want to know if God exists or not. All you know is that, for some strange reason you feel alone, you feel lonely. You want someone to hold your hand. Then your friends graduate from high school, then you want that. Then your friends graduate from college, then you want that. If one of you in this class come to me or Jesse and say, I'm so happy, the first thing that Jesse and I will ask, or Tasha, we say, well, why are you so happy? Getting married. Now, the three of us have been there. We're not going to be a downer to your life. You're going to say, oh, that's great, beautiful, wonderful, good for you. But deep down, you're crying as if someone just died. Because your version of happiness has not been tested by life. Ours has. If you were paying attention, parents, despite all the fears that they may have, the moment they realize they're going to be a father or a mother, man, they rejoice. It's like the Garden of Eden in paradise. But paradise hasn't been tested, And once tested, you come to class February 22nd or maybe 23rd, 9:30 in the morning. Kids are fun, but man, they make you miserable. Fast forward, you have a child, Leah. It's no longer about God. It's no longer about philosophy. It's all about money and power, and not just for yourself, if you happen to be a decent parent. Because for some strange reason, the moment you embrace your child, this attachment brings about concerns. For the first time, you realize how shitty the world is. And the soul, if there is any such thing that lives inside your child, is going to get demolished. I mean, imagine you live in a crummy neighborhood in Oakland. There's a porn shop there, a drug addict there, a drugstore there, a gangbanger there. But that's the only place you have. And your kids needs to walk to school, and it's their first time. Or you just buy this bike for the first time, but you don't have space inside the house, so you have to leave it on the porch, knowing full well that someone is going to steal it tonight. And for the first time, you realize you have concerns inside you never had before. And it's not about you. Am I able to protect this kid? And again, depending on the sort of parent you are and the sort of culture in which you live, because there's a difference in American culture and, say, African culture, or Middle Eastern culture, or Chinese culture. In America, the moment a kid is born, the first thing that the parents do, they run to the church. And you know what they say? Yahweh, or Jesus Christ, please turn my kid 18 by tomorrow so they could leave the house. In the African, Middle Eastern culture, once you get a kid, you're held hostage for life. You don't have a life for yourself anymore. Everything you do is for your kids. And I'm not really quite sure which version is better. Is it better to be an American or is it better to be a Middle Easterner? My mom, she's got no life. She calls me 50 times. My brother another 50 times. My sister 100 times. And sometimes you sit back and you say, well, doesn't she know what autonomy is? Self-sufficiency is? No, because we don't have that philosophy. We don't have that language. A mother lives through her kids. That's the only world she knows. Here, the story is very different. You can be a CEO, you can be a wife at times, you can be a mother at times, but at the end of the day, you want your kids out. So you could live your life as if life has something to offer you. And so you struggle, you know. I can't tell you how many times I've been on that elevator in the tower building where I look at my colleague and I say, so when are you going to retire? And the guy's like limping. He's on crutches. You know, he's got like an oxygen mask on. He's about to die. Which is what I can't really retire because I got 5 kids in high school and 2 kids in junior high and 1 kid in like kindergarten. So I got another 50 years to go. So man, you're dying. What are you talking about? And so all of a sudden your vision of happiness changes. And then you get to be 70, 80. Your kids are out, and let's just create this picture that your kids are relatively healthy in body and mind and life. No addiction to drugs or alcohol or porn, video games. They have a good job, they graduate from school, they don't have any crummy friends, you know. And say, good, now I can live my life. Backache, knee ache, shoulder ache, ulcer, a few heart attacks. And even if you're relatively physically healthy, you're just exhausted. I mean, it's tough being around for 60, 70 years, Leah. And then you look back. You say, you know, from the moment I was conceived, when the egg and the sperm were in union, the only thing I wanted was happiness and freedom. I've always been looking for Sabbath, for the promised land. I tried coming out, I tried biking, I tried running, I tried holding hands, getting married, buying a house, buying a car, getting a few degrees. I did all this for the sake of happiness. And in the end, Leah, you're in the clay cradle of old age. And you know what holds you hostage now? You review your life. You can be proud, but reality is right there. You are old. Life has been a waste, especially if you've been contaminated by existential philosophy. And by that I mean the following. That you have enjoyed reading an idiot like Friedrich Nietzsche, or Jean-Paul Sartre, or Marcus Aurelius. Be authentic. Find the kingdom of God within. If you've been exposed to those kinds of philosophy, they will make you feel so bad about the sort of human being you've become. You spend most of your life taking care of other people and taking care of the politics of life. Mortgage, rent, food. I mean, they take up about 99.9% of your mental and emotional spaces. You only have 1% left to yourself. And you know what you do with that 1%? Well, you can't really do much with it because you need to kind of put your body on the bed and rest to distract yourself from the miseries of everyday life. And I don't mean miseries like misery, just responsibilities. And you were looking so forward to retirement because the narrative or the dream in the retirement was, once I'm free from all of life, then I can do A, B, C, D. No amount of Botox is going to help you. A facelift is not going to help you. And you realize that the only thing that's holding you hostage now is regret. And so at the age of 65, 70, you go to workshops. You know why? Happiness. How do I overcome my regret? How do I live with old age? So, does that do anything for you, Leah? Here's, may I borrow you? You sure?
Okay.
Cassie. So, Leah. I met this young woman almost 30 years ago. She was 17 and a half, 18. And she suffered from what most 17, 18-year-olds suffer from. Trying to figure out who and what they are and what they need to do. So at the age of 17 and a half, I began to manipulate her, brainwash her. And I did a fantastic job. And she dropped all of her classes and took all the classes that I was teaching. She was fully contaminated. And one day she walks into my office and says, I think I'm going to major in philosophy, humanities, and religious studies. She had one definition of happiness for the next 10 years, going to school and majoring in philosophy, being around ideas. Man, that's a long, long, long version of happiness. A definition that can sustain you for about 10 years. And then she comes to my office and says, what am I going to do with this degree? It's useless. She got a job. For the past 20 years, she had an extension of that happiness. She's been happy living with these ideas in the classroom and outside for the past 30 years. Now, the problem with us and whatever your definition of happiness and its longevity, eventually there's going to come a time where you're going to look at this happiness in the classroom with ideas and you say, I'm no longer as interested. And then you sit back and you say, really? Do you know that show on TV, Young Sheldon? So I'm not quite sure which season and what episode. You've seen the show.
I've heard of it.
It's really, really good. And it's if you guys have kids, if any of you, just put Young Sheldon on, like 24/7. You know, and it's kind of like being exposed, you know, to if you're live in an environment where there's a lot of smog. That smog is the thing you're exposed to. So after a while, you have lung disease and heart disease and kidney disease, right? If you expose your kid to Sheldon, you'll have Sheldon disease. So you want to make sure that you disease your kids with the right stuff. Okay? Now, there is this like high-powered physicist, like 60, 70-year-old man who gets invited to NASA and other places because he's like Stephen Hawking. At a certain point, he says, you know what? I just want to like quit my job and go work at Safeway and put price tags on stuff. You know, and this young Sheldon, who happens to have been in this guy's class, goes to him and says, what are you doing? You're like the best physicist in the world. And you put in like $2.75 on a tomato can? What's your problem? He says, you know what? I've been living in a world of abstraction for the past like 60 years. For the first time, I'm exposed to something I can touch and feel and taste. I am fine. And so Sheldon goes to the dean of the school and says, listen, your physicist is at Safeway putting price tags on canned items. Can you go talk to him and have him come back to the school? And so the dean goes and sits, you know, with this guy. And the Safeway clerk now is able to convince the dean that, you know, Einstein, the last few years of his life was a complete waste. The best work of Einstein when he was young. In old age, he couldn't really do much. You know, he says, you know, you and I have been in physics and astronomy and this and that for the past like 40, 50 years. What exactly have we done? So the dean who was supposed to convince this guy to go back to school gets infected. He sleeps on the bus bench. He doesn't go home. And the point I'm trying to make is, you know, someone like Aristotle, He was so lucky to have been contaminated by Plato when he was young. Plato gave him philosophy. That philosophy sustained Aristotle for 40 years. At a certain point, he said, you know what? I don't want to die like Socrates. I value my life. So his vision of happiness changed. It wasn't so much about justice. I don't want to be killed by a government or a set of politicians who don't really care about philosophy. I'd rather escape. So the point I suppose I'm trying to make is the following. Find someone, find something that has a long shelf life. That particular shelf life, Leah, will give you a happiness that can last either for a quickie or for a longie. And you can't do this on your own unless, you walk on the soccer field for the first time and you realize you're just a damn good soccer player and you don't really know why. And before you know it, you're playing for Manchester United or Real Madrid or Barcelona. Go to In-N-Out. Not the drive-through. Go to the shop itself. You stay there for half hour. When you come out, everything about you smells like the shop. Be around someone or something or a set of somethings that can create for you a version of happiness that's long-lasting. The only thing you need to be aware of is the following. It matters very little what version of happiness you pursue. In the end, you're going to reach the same conclusion that Aldous Huxley reached. Aldous Huxley, some American philosopher, that in the end, your best friends will be old age and vomit. Tasha?
Why do humans need meaning? Why do we need God, religion, beliefs? Is it in our brain?
I think it's a blessing and a curse. You're a married woman. Is it good? Do you ever find yourself attracted to another human being? Who's now your husband? Have you ever pursued that attraction? Does that attraction contaminate you when you go home? You engage in comparing and contrasting. Maybe you look yourself in the mirror and you say, what the hell happened to me? It's a blessing and a curse. In other words, you and I, roamed the earth for many, many years to find stability. And you have it. 3 beautiful kids, a husband you love, a life you've enjoyed creating despite some of the hiccups on the journey. But there are moments where you realize or you feel that it's not enough. And I don't know if we're wired this way or we are contaminated by the books we read, the friends we have, our social environment. And I'm going to guess that there is just something wrong with us, and it has nothing to do with the culture. I mean, take yourself, and for the sake of our argument, let's just say that the Old Testament gives a relatively accurate account of the human condition. Go back to Genesis. God wakes up and he says, you know what? I think today I'm going to create a few things. And of those things, one is going to be a human being, a man and a woman. It's a Garden of Eden. You don't have to go to Safeway, Home Depot to get a job. Food grows out of the earth. No pain. Nothing. It's the Garden of Eden. The promised land. The kingdom of God. You don't hang out with human beings and feel shitty about hanging out with them. Around you, you're surrounded by angels. It's not enough. They are tempted by the tree. And then the problem with the temptation is that, you have this good sense. You're attracted, but you don't go near. But if you do go near, you don't touch. And if you don't touch, you don't pick. And if you do pick, you don't bite. And if you do bite, you don't chew or swallow. You have common sense, but Adam and Eve didn't. Even the Garden of Eden was not enough for us. Even God was not enough. Even having a pain-free life is not enough. No goddamn thing under the sun is enough. Let me just footnote that, forgive me. There is this last poem by this man I really, really like, and I think you like him too, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi Balkhi. He goes by the nickname Rumi. It's his last poem. I don't know if he wrote this for his son, he wrote this for us, but رو سر بنه به بالین تنها مرا رها کن ترک من خراب شبگرد مبتلا کن مایم و موج سودا شب تا به روز تنها خواهی بیا ببخشا خواهی برو جفا کن از من گریز تا تو هم در بلا نیفتی بگزین ره سلامت ترک ره بلا کن. But it seems that the moment you are born as a human being, you are born with a pain, this quest for happiness. And you try all sorts of things. You even live in the Garden of Eden. I mean, look, you look for a companion, you find one, and they happen to be your soulmate. And you guys use the language common to all human beings from the times of Adam and Eve. Sex. And it has its own unique language. That's the only way you can communicate to your companion how much you adore them. That's the way you express your soul, right? At a certain point, it seems like something enters the relationship. Time, space, saturation. I'm not really quite sure what it is. And you look yourself in the mirror, you look your companion, or something dawns on you that you've been expelled. You've been tossed out, pushed out. Sometimes in a very subtle way, sometimes forcibly. But you look at your companion and it's not there anymore. You don't want to be in bed anymore. You want to go out. You want to go for a walk. In fact, you want to go for a walk by yourself. You don't want your companion around. And you say, why? Why is that? And so what this poem is, Rumi is sick. He's on his deathbed and his son goes to him and says, is there anything I can do for you, Dad? Can I give you some peace? Can I bring you some happiness? And he says, no. دردی است غیر مردن کن را دوا نباشد. If you really want to know what happiness is, you can find it upon the moment of death. Once you die, your search ends. You will not quest for anything. That is if you don't believe in a soul. Because if you do, like Abul Hasan Kharaqani, the angels of death will visit you in your grave. And they will look at your soul and they will ask some questions like, what are you going to do when you go in the presence of God? And if God asks you, did you live your life through me and for me? What are you going to say? So if you happen to have come from a very religious, spiritual tradition, not even in death are you free. Sorry, I forgot your question. Yes?
So those who have kids, like when you watch the behavior of babies, it seems to me a very true form of what we are. They're just these little humans, but they have so much curiosity and so many questions, and they crave new things. They're just going around the environment and asking, like, what is this? And the curiosity, being a little older, having a baby, it's been really, it's a different experience than doing it when I was younger. So I'm enjoying watching I think that that's in all of us, that sort of curiosity and stuff like, wanting to pick the apple. It's in us.
If I may add to that, it's true. Kids are curious, but they're also very stupid. And kids are going to remain stupid until they get to be 40, 50, 60. Then what you need to have is a very educated sense of curiosity. And that happens when you look back. I mean, it's kind of like open your cabinets when you go home tonight and you realize you have a lot of junk. And then at a certain point, you look at your husband and your kids and say, you know what? They've been having all this junk in various places around the house. This weekend, we're going to stay home and we're going to get rid of things. So when you're a kid, you just accumulate things. And they're good because they become your toolbox and they're able to help you navigate through life. At a certain point, you realize that most of the things that you have stored and saved and accumulated are of no use. They have outlived their usefulness. I mean, kids ask wonderful questions, you know, but the thing is, they don't really understand what they're asking. They don't really embody the question. It's not like the question is the outcome of many years of reflection and pain. It's just something they see. You know, it's something that, you know, if you read the New Testament, the Gospels, unless you become a child, you will not enter the kingdom of God. And I think that is such a flawed statement if you don't unpack it the right way. You know, you really need to be like 70 or 60 or 50. And, you know, when you go home tonight and empty your cluttered closets, now that's an innocence that lies on many years of experience and knowledge, that you really just need 2 jackets, not 50. When you're like a novice, when you're a kid, you have no problem buying 50 jackets. You know, you become a bit more frugal and it's educated. You know that you don't need 50 jackets. You honor the empty space. Kids don't have that. Kids are just curious. It just comes with the territory. Adults, it doesn't come with the territory. You have to struggle. You know, you have to really come to a certain mindfulness, awareness, to say, you know what, it's just a life lived wrongly. I want my innocence back. And it's such an insightful place to be in life. You know, it's like when you get to be 35 or 40 and you go out on dates, you ask the right questions. You don't care about, oh, your car is so great, let's go for a ride, and then make out in the back seat. You know, when you're 35, you have this sort of curiosity and innocence to you. I've been hurt enough, I've wasted my time enough. You know, I really want to like take advantage of what little time I have left. And that is a good place to be. You know, you just become less tolerant of BS that life offers you. I just don't like people who take their jobs so seriously. It's just like, you know how many presidents we've had on this campus? How many VPs? How many deans? And every time there is a new dean or a VP or this, it's like they have a stick up their ass. Just take it easy a little bit, man. It's no big deal. You're not that memorable. I had one dean who would take his drum outside and just play the drum. That was a beautiful guy. You know, Marco Menendez. Anyways, Brett. How do you have hair like that? It just...
It's a mess. Why does
So does your companion like put her fingers through your hair? Does she say anything? Does she like express jealousy?
control that? I think a lot of people associate growth with like personal wisdom and patience, but that is really the audio's kind of correct, why would you say that? That goes down? I think I might have asked this. Understand that.
My mother-in-law, almost a decade ago, she was making boon. It's one of the rituals that certain people in Africa, certain cultures have, where you season your coffee beans, then you grind them, then you make coffee. So on this particular occasion, she just bent over a little too much, and her scarf caught fire. And she had to be rushed to the burn center in San Francisco. They put you in this cold water, and someone has to scrub you to get the dead skin off of you. And it regrows, but it's still, to some extent, dead skin, and they have to keep scrubbing. And you go to that hospital, and people are screaming because it's just so much pain. And I guess you pray for death because you don't want to, you can't do this anymore. And I suppose the stuff with patience is, you know, it's easy for me to come to class and talk about these ideas. The classroom doesn't really test me, challenge me. None of you raise your hand to say, do you practice what you preach? Or are you a counterfeit? I mean, really like test me to see if I can hold down my frustration, irritation, what I perceive to be disrespectful, or will I just flip out, be angry, and just drop you out of the class? And the truth is, when people talk about patience, I think, first of all, they're on the stage, it's a feel-good moment, but when they get tested, you know, it just disappears. You've been in a relationship for a while, you know, you come to this class, you usually are very soft-spoken, well-mannered. I doubt very much that's the case when you and your companion get into a tiff. You know, you raise your voice, and she raises, and you flip out, and she flips out. Even if you were to look at the Gospels, you know, about Jesus Christ, the Garden of Gethsemane, let this guy pass by me. I mean, you're just a 31, 32-year-old kid. You know, you're roaming around, you're hanging out with all these people, and you find them to be buffoons. No one listens, no one can understand what you're saying. Everyone rejects you. No one really understands how it feels at the age of 12 to have left your parents, to have left your community, to go into the desert, to travel around to figure out what truth is, what justice is, what happiness is. No one really understands or feels how it felt for you to receive a revelation from God. You know, where for the first time, some experience comes to you where you realize that there is this thing inside you, kingdom of God. You know, the soul. You see it, you feel it, you taste it. And then you come back and you realize that, well, you have to put all that into language, and it's so tough, and you do the best you can. In the end, you find yourself in this garden, and you say, God, my patience just ran out. I just don't want to do this anymore. People are stupid, language is stupid, all this stuff is stupid. No one cares. And the truth is, I don't care anymore. Just let me go. Finish it up. Or in the Gospels where he's on the cross, nailed. I mean, this is Jesus Christ. He loses his faith. Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why have thou forsaken me? You know, I've grown impatient of the pain of being on this cross. It's raining, it's snowing, it's cold. The only thing I wanted to do with people is to tell them that they have a gift on the inside. Was that too much to ask? Was that too many words to be used? I just told them they have the potential to get an A in this class. and people run to the dean and complain. He told me I can get an A. That's too much. Why would you be content with a C or a D or an F? God damn it, you can get an A. And they nail him to the cross for that. And there comes a point where he has no patience. He says, he loses his faith. He loses God. Like the story of Madman and Friedrich Nietzsche's, that I don't think I can feel God in my life anymore. Why have you forsaken me? First you give me this curiosity where I leave my parents at the age of 12. Then for the next long, tough years, I roam around the forest to find truth. I find it. Then the only thing I want to do is go back and tell my people. I mean, it's like Myrna, an immigrant, comes here, like me, I don't know what you did. I mopped floors, I washed dishes, I did graveyard for 20 goddamn years, I washed cars for another 20 years. And the only thing I ask for my kids, stay in school. Don't do drugs, don't drink, don't watch porn, don't date. Simple things. But I get rejected all the time. Is it too much to ask? No. And so you realize that when you are tested, after a while you say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. You lose patience. Patience is a privilege. Now there is another kind of patience that is very, very complex. So let me give that to you. You must have reached a stage where you no longer look yourself as a man or a woman, as a husband or a wife, as a son or a daughter. You're a student of life without relinquishing all these other roles or responsibilities you have in life. You are a father, yes. You are a son, yes. You are a friend. These are the responsibilities you hold. But you're also a student. You are curious. Okay? If you walk into life, and that takes a long, long time to get to. You have to go through all the garbage of life. You get to be 50, 60, you realize it hasn't really been worth what it's been advertised to you. It's kind of like that scene in Siddhartha's book. Hermann Hesse's book, Siddhartha. Life is a lie, where you say, you know what, I don't want to deceive myself, and I refuse to have my senses deceive me, and I suddenly refuse life to deceive me. You become a really, really good student. And by this time, you've come to understand a few things about life. Life pokes at you 24/7. And if life doesn't poke at you, your own psyche does. Your own needs does. Your own past does. At every moment, something just troubles you. And you've come to understand that by being a good student. Now you pay attention. Every time you walk out of your door, you say, you know what? Shit is going to happen. And I know what happens when I get shitty. I get smelly. I have two options. I can either react or I can hold my tongue. In being aware and mindful of holding your tongue, then you can exercise patience. But remember, you're a human being, and all human beings have a certain capacity. I like carpentry. I like framing houses, and I build rooms. I do all sorts of things. Over the past maybe 20, 30 years of making things, I've come to understand a few things about tools. If you buy tools that are battery operated, okay, if they're not Milwaukee or DeWalt, the 5 amp battery with tools that are not DeWalt or Milwaukee will last you maybe 20 minutes. If they are DeWalt or Milwaukee, they will last 5 hours. Some people are made to last or to be patient for no more than 30 minutes. Some people for 3 hours. Some people for 30 years. Eventually you're going to break. Upon breaking, you will catch yourself. And in catching yourself, you will have regret. And regret is you look yourself in the mirror, in your own conscience, and you say, man, you went to school for all these years. You've been patient for 30 years, and then you lost it. How could you be so stupid? I thought you did better than that. And what you need to understand, all of us come into life with a certain capacity. Now, some capacities can be worked on. So instead of this 2 hours, you can 2.5 hours. Okay? Some capacities can be worked on. You just stand at 2 hours, period. Okay? So when you talk about patience, some are very organic and some are reactive. They can only take so much abuse. Okay? Some, you like my cousin, you become a mystic for about 30 years, and then you realize you have a companion who's a shopaholic and an alcoholic and a this and a that. And you say, only through Satan can I improve who and what I am. Every time I go home, my wife is going to smell like alcohol. I need to be like one of those hospice care people. I'm going to go home, know that my wife means well, but she has some issues. She can't deal with them, so she smokes it away or she drinks it away. I will take care of her, despite the fact that she shits on me 24/7. And through her abuse, you learn how to keep your cool. Now that is a very, very, very evolved state of being. Another great example is by the Stoic Epictetus. He's a slave. He has a Roman owner. And his owner is abusive. Oftentimes slaps him, kicks him, punches him. This particular occasion, he grabs his arm and just twists it. And at a certain point, Epictetus looks at him and says, listen, if you twist my arm just a bit more, it's going to break. And if it breaks, I cannot wash the dishes and I cannot sweep the grounds. It's up to you. Now that takes a lot of training to overcome the instinctual anger that your body imposes on you. Tell this guy to stop it. It's like the saying, thy will be done. It's such a remarkable saying that you look at the entirety of life and you say, it's a game played on us by God. I don't know the reasons. I don't need to know the reasons. I am not in the mind of God. I don't know why God does what he does. And I don't know why he plays games with human life. All I know is that every action that takes place down here has been given by God. It's like Jesus running into Pontius Pilate and Pilate looking at him saying, do you know I have the power to crucify you, to kill you? And Jesus looks at him and says, that power would not have been given to you if it wasn't for God. And Pontius all of a sudden is put on pause. Wow, this guy is really amazing. That even in moments of crisis, that crisis is in your life because of God. And it's there because of God because you need to learn a lesson from it. Be patient. Don't open your mouth and say nonsense. Don't react the way other people react. You're supposed to be a bit more evolved. Remember, your task in life, this version of happiness, realize the kingdom of God within. And what is the kingdom of God? It's a place where all things are received equally, good and the bad, right and the wrong, Satan and the angels. And the truth is, it's a very difficult place to be. You don't find very many of those people, I think Malcolm X came very close. I think Mother Teresa came very close, except near the end of her life, the past 10 years or 20 years. She was really upset with people going to her. Her capacity had just run out. It's kind of like, my mom is a very, very nice woman. My parents are like angels. They're like saints. So I told my mom, I'm going to come there with the kids. But my mom is 80. She's got, cancer. She's taking pills. She's tired. And she says, Amir, I love you. And I love your kids. Just can't do it. I understand. And the idea of me telling my mom, you need to read the Quran and read the passages on patience. So when I bring my kids, you can be patient with them. That's like a stupid thing for me to say. The truth is, she's an 80-year-old woman. She's paid her dues, and I have no right to impose this on her. So, and the other thing, Rhett, I think there are moments where you don't need to be patient. You know, if you know that your kid is walking on a path that could potentially ruin their future, do not exercise patience. Grab their arm, push them into the room, lock the door, bar the windows, no food, you know, for like weeks. Let them suffer so they can learn a few things. So this idea of you have to have this like eternal patience about you, I think you need to know the environment, you need to know what you're working with, and why you've chosen to work with that thing. So the truth is these concepts, you know, they are very, very complex. You know, I'm standing in this room. I look around. Some people are paying attention. Some people are not paying attention. Some people are playing with their phones. Some people are playing with themselves. And the truth is, the people I don't care for, I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to look at them. I'm not going to see if they have any questions. Why should I waste my time? Instead of spending time with someone who doesn't care, why not spend time with someone who actually cares? You know, I get lots of emails asking for this and that. But then I get an email from, let's just say, Leah. Can you do A, B, C, D? Absolutely. With other people, I have no patience. With her, I have patience. Now, if you were to ask, well, is that just? So just according to who? You know, at my age, from what little I know about this and that, what feels to be justice for me is attending to her needs rather than yours, for example. So again, a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of regret, a lot of sitting back, going into this hibernation mode, trying to observe, take notes, and then coming out. And when you come out, you're a bit more refined. That's all. You don't need to be Jesus Christ. It's no good. What time is it? I'm sorry. 2 minutes. Samir.
I was gonna say you're correct about how life is thrown at us each day. Each day we have different things coming, and it's whether it's a hard lesson or an easy lesson.
Yeah.
We're supposed to just build that up in our toolbox so that we do build character, and later on in life we know how to handle things and get patience and stuff like that or whatever.
Yeah.
So that we can live like you said. And then just like you said, it's hard to pursue happiness or whatever because it's short joy lives in a lot of things. Whatever. It's like you go after so many things, you get them, and you finally get them, and you be like, what's that?
Yeah.
With the way the world is today, if you're one of those persons who's just on social media, you're never going to be happy. You're going to be looking and say, oh, this was that. It's like back then, those things wasn't even around.
It's true.
It was
Good points, yeah.
good, all right.
Yeah, maybe at a certain point, you know, in the semester we should talk about pleasure and happiness. Because you don't need to work with pleasure. I mean, you do a little bit. You can define pleasure. You know, it's a more simplistic concept. Going for a jog, drinking coffee. But happiness is like, you got to work for it. I'm not quite sure where you go to work for it. And oftentimes, happiness comes with a good amount of struggle and pain, whereas that's not the case with pleasure. Most often, pleasure has to do with dopamine, and happiness has nothing to do with that. But all that for later. Yes? Yes?
Is there any way to yourself from jealousy?
Rid yourself from jealousy? That's a great question, but it's a question that needs to be wait till Wednesday. Jealousy is really good. I mean, it's great. Jealousy and envy, they're cousins. And anger, like another sibling, they're great to have. But we only have a minute. And I'm not American, so I can't do quickies. It's a great emotion. Don't ever, 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 ever rid yourself of that emotion, jealousy. You need to have it.
Serious.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. I mean, this idea that's floating around these days, like people like Eckhart Tolle, like don't be angry and don't be jealous. And most of these emotions live inside your mind, free your mind. That's like this bullshit philosophy that's floating around, I mean, by uneducated people. And the sad thing about it is that people who are sitting and listening to this stuff just gulp it down as if it's something really, really good. It's not good. I mean, you have every right to be angry in life. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump only paid like $750 in taxes, you have every right to be, angry. I mean, you and I don't work that, we don't make very much money. We pay thousands of dollars in taxes. I mean, this guy who makes billions, what sort of loopholes does he use? And it makes no sense. And all these people on YouTube coming up and telling us that you shouldn't be angry, you should be jealous, you should be envious, they're wrong. I mean, if you want to survive life, if you want to prosper in life, you need to be jealous. I mean, look at the Olympics. This figure skater looks at this other figure skater. This guy does like 4 turns and this guy does like 2 turns. And it's the envy and the jealousy and the anger and the incompetence that says, you know what? Instead of practicing 2 hours a day, I'm going to practice 20 hours a day. And that jealousy eventually gives this person a gold medal. Without that, you wouldn't prosper in life. I mean, you need to look at your brother who's been accomplished and feel angry and jealous for who he is and who you are. And it's good for you to feel shitty about yourself, because then you'll put yourself in various workshops. Then you'll improve yourself. Then one day you look at your brother and say, I made it. It's great. Imagine now if that particular emotion was absent in you. You still continue to be a scumbag. So yeah, jealousy is good. Until that's your boyfriend.
It's important to also work.
No! If you were indifferent, you wouldn't feel jealous.
I mean, like, it's like,
Look, indifference is a very, very, very mature stage. Have you ever been sick? Like sick? Like flu sick in bed for 5 days? And your boyfriend says, I can't make it today. I can't see you today. You don't give a shit. You're sick. You're throwing up left and right. And you don't want anyone around. Indifference. But you're not emotionally or intellectually or spiritually sick. That is a very healthy sickness to have, but you're not there yet, and we can talk about that. On Wednesday, will you be here? So don't get sick, Wednesday. See you Wednesday.
thank you.
All right, take care. Have a good one, man.